up this afternoon.
Music to wash up by.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because our dishwasher went up the spout a couple of weeks ago.
Oh no!
Engineer doesn't come out until this Thursday. So it's like hand washing again. I mean, we hand wash every evening, but it's those things that can't go in the dishwasher.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't put sharp knives in the dishwasher, and there's a few pans don't fit in either. So there's always some washing up, but when you've got to do everything, it's a bit annoying.
Yes.
So it's like, I've not heard of. I'm not going to spoil it for. People should listen to 2/3 Focus that came out today, Sunday. Because Dandle's had a cracking recommendation for some music. Never heard of the group before, but it was like, I dig this. It was definitely good washing up music, and I can imagine good kind of in the workshop music as well, and possibly even kind of if you like music for running, it's probably quite good for running too.
I'm gonna have to check it out then.
You'll have to listen to a new podcast though, Jessy.
I mean, I throw some in sometimes. It's not just all like Evolution of Horror and The Final Girls. Like I am listening to some other stuff.
Very fair.
I mean, from listening to Clamp, I mean, I'm what, you're on 160 episodes now, Grant?
Yeah,
100. Yes, 165, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've missed any episodes. And I mean, certainly, Jessy, since you've come on, there's definitely a trend in you. You seem to like horror.
Oh yeah, it's the only thing I watch, really.
The only amygdala.
Yeah, I don't know. I love it. I love everything about it because it's not just what's on the screen, it's all of the work that goes into it. Because one of my favorite movies of all time is The Thing, and there are so many amazing practical effects in that movie that still hold up today. Like there's really only a couple scenes where you can sort of see the seams and it looks a little janky, but the rest of the time it's amazing. So I just I love them.
So I'm just
going to go live on Instagram, so I'm going to mute here. You're going to see me talking, but I'm talking to the people here, not to you. I just want to let you know that.
This is a first on. So,
no,
Jessy,
I'm sure.
I mean, we've had people take pictures and post them onto Instagram, but I don't think we've had anyone do a live.
I want to see if Grant's going to do the entire rest of the podcast live on this.
And the question is the audience, his audience, going to hear us talking?
No, I don't think so. It'll be through
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It'll be like in the UN. It'll just be relaying everything across.
I mean, those translators do an amazing job. You have to, just think about it. Jessy, horror films. Then tell us about. I mean, there are. I mean, horror is often described as just one genre, but I mean, I'm not a big horror fan, but I know enough that there are genres within the genre.
Oh yeah.
So, what's your kind of genre preferred genre within the genre of horror?
Honestly, there are two probably. One like alien sci-fi, because I love Alien and Aliens and Predator, The Thing, all of that stuff. It's so creepy and wonderful. And I love
Horizon.
Yes, The Horizon. That gave me really bad nightmares when I was little.
Same.
Yeah. So yeah, I love anything where it doesn't have to fit to what we know is true on Earth. Like they can just go wild with stuff. I really enjoy that. And then the other one is like ghost possession, exorcism sort of stuff. Because I am not religious at all, and I don't really believe in that stuff. But oh my God, that style of horror film just terrifies me. Like just having something in your house that cannot be controlled is so scary to me. I just like
a teenager.
Yes. Hereditary. Hereditary is a good example of a movie where it starts with a teenager and shit goes completely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love those two. I think out of all of them the most.
So I always find that if you take the classic slashers like sort of Nightmare on Elm Street, I've never particularly found those frightening.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, something's got the jumps. I mean, for me, the jumpiest movie ever was Jaws.
Oh yeah,
where the head pops out underneath the boat.
Yeah,
and every time
there's
I watch
still
it,
parts
even
in
though
that
I know
scare
it's
me.
coming, I know the head's going to come out. The head's like, ah! And it's just like, it's just what makes me jump.
Well, Alien's a perfect example of that because all the reactions are real from the actors.
Mhm.
The moment with the chest buster comes out, the other actors weren't told.
Yep, there was
So
no
it was-
rehearsal.
Yeah, so that was just the of reality of seeing that.
Oh, could you imagine? I mean, could you absolutely imagine it? It's just like, especially if they've not been told kind of the nature of, if you film that bit early, before they've seen other things, because films are often filmed out of sequence.
When in this day and age, it'd be really weird because everything would normally just be green screen, wouldn't it? And then to actually have a real practical effect in that,
definitely.
But for me, the scariest stuff is the more psychological. So I will never ever willingly watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest again.
That is fair. That is a really intense film.
That disturbed me for weeks, and I even just thinking about it. That's just so disturbing.
I think everybody kind of has one of those horror films, and I'm kind of curious what everybody's is. For me, it's Last House on the Left. I was recommended to watch that. I was 16 years old and had no idea what it was about. And that movie fucked me up for the rest of my life. I'm pretty sure. I don't think I'm ever going to forget it.
I don't think I've certainly not seen that. I'm not even sure
I can't recommend it. It is so horrifying.
I'm not even going to write it down. I'm not even going to look at it.
It's too much for me.
Yeah, so I think Event Horizon and a couple of other films that I saw, probably younger than I should have done, that just kind of ruined a lot of it for me. So, like, Event Horizon is the one that kind of stuck with me because I was in a dark room on my own with an open fire going, and the kind of the scene where everything starts catching fire. I ended up having to pause it and go and like turn the fire off. And I was probably 13, 14, something like that. And it was enough to kind of have a lasting effect. But I've never really gone back and wanted to watch the rest of horror stuff because it doesn't tend to. I think the majority of like normal standard, what you'd see is like a horror film at the cinema just tends to be like Andy said, like the slashers they're full of very predictable jump scares and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think that in any recent memory, the things that's kind of really stuck with me is things like David Tennant's performance in Jessica Jones. That as a really sort of psychological holy shit kind of moment.
He was terrifying in that. Like it is so weird. Because he's one of the first doctors that I experienced. So like I have so many warm fuzzies for him because of Doctor Who, and then seeing him in that was very unnerving. Ugh.
Yeah, and that's very cerebral, very psychological, like internal torment.
You're just waiting for him to pull out the sonic screwdriver and change and say Allons-y. Right.
Anything but what he's doing. Yes, anything but what he's doing, please.
I mean, he's a phenomenal actor. Certainly. I'm guessing we probably see more of his work over here for obvious reasons than you guys do over there.
Yeah.
Have you come across a show called Broadchurch?
Yes, I love that one.
That was quite an intense psychological thriller too.
Yes.
With him in it, and what's her name? She was the queen in The Crown.
Yeah,
Olivia
I was just
Colman.
trying to remember. Yes, because she's in Peep Show.
And
as
Jodie
well.
Whittaker. Jodie Whittaker was in it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I struggle with shows like that actually. But Grant, what would be your kind of not watching again horror?
The Never Watch Again Horror's Cabin Fever.
Oh,
It was, I think, a 2002 or 2003, something like that. And it's like about these college kids rent a cabin and then get flesh-eating disease.
Oh.
it is one of my least favorite movies. I have to say, I hate Eli Roth. Anything he does, that's one of his first big things, and it's just gross in like a different way than most horror. Like it just makes me feel dirty watching it.
See, it just makes me like flesh-eating disease is like a real thing. Obviously, the horror part of it like made it very different the way it would happen, but it makes me like afraid of, like, you go swimming somewhere and then all of a sudden you know you have like a cut, or for me, I scratch my mosquito bites until they bleed, so I always have open wounds, so I definitely could get flesh-eating disease just by walking through the wrong part of the forest. So don't watch that one if you don't want to be grossed out.
Too much body horror in that one, yeah.
See, I don't mind. Again, going back, I don't mind like the slasher stuff. I don't mind the kind of, although there's, like Jamie says, you get the obvious jump scares, Alien, the chest burster, and the like of that. I think because it's in my head, I know it's not real. Right. For me, I don't find that as scary, particularly long term. Whereas something like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is based essentially on reality, something like Misery.
Oh God, I love Misery.
I mean that the hobbling scene in Misery. I'm just thinking about it now. Just sends chills.
I think that's the thing. It's a sense of empathy, isn't it? I think that's when you can empathize with a character, like you say, something that's overly gruesome or grotesque, or something that's the big, ridiculous stuff is
where it could actually happen. The reality stuff, that's the scary stuff.
Oh yeah. I struggle with those. I would say that's probably like the one of my lowest tiers of horror subgenre is how scary people are. Like, because there's just so much that comes with that like we experience in our lives that like I don't enjoy watching it. Like I'm trying to think. There's an Australian film called The Loved Ones that is really terrifying in that way. Or one that my partner and I watched recently that's called Speak No Evil, which is another one that I can't fully recommend to people because the ending was one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen. And it's the sort of movie where the tension is never released. You never feel comfortable. You never feel safe. And so it just builds and builds and builds until it comes to this like crescendo of like, we were completely silent, just like staring and then staring at each other because it was, I've never experienced anything like that before. And it's all about people hurting people. And it's just too much.
Definition, my wife won't, she does not like kind of horror movies. She wouldn't watch a horror movie at all. She's not particularly into action movies, or if there's a movie that's got action in it, that's fine. If it's comedy action, something like Jumanji, the new Jumanjis,
great films, really good films.
Oh, really good films. The new ones are great. I mean, the original one was fantastic. The new ones, it's a great, it's a funny premise as well, particularly when you've kind of got different voices or different people embodied, the whole kind of thing. Great fun. But she reads a lot. She reads books much more than I do, and tends to not so much thrillers, but kind of often, I think, good examples. Often things like detective stories, but quite gentle detective stories, often period pieces. But she will watch. She's a linguist. That's her thing. She's a languages teacher. She speaks. I've mentioned before. She speaks multiple languages.
Oh wow!
I mean,
I'm always so impressed with people that can do that.
Her degree is in German. She teaches German. She teaches French. She's fluent in French. She speaks conversation. She can understand significant portions of Spanish and Italian just because of their relationships to French. She can speak conversational and understand conversational Swedish and on a similar mind then kind of Norwegian, also Danish because of relations to sort of Swedish and also to German, Dutch, Flemish and kind of She languages are just her thing. It's a fantastic language, and so she will often watch. She likes watching detective programs, and often quite dark ones. And she'll watch like European with Netflix. We can watch foreign language films and TV programs, which for her as a linguist wanting to practice her language skills. So she'll put on a what I would refer to as sort of dark, Scandi detective thriller. And it's like, she enjoys watching those and kind of getting into the kind of into the story. She's not just doing it as an exercise in practicing understanding Swedish. She'll have the Swedish going on the Norwegian with subtitles sometimes without, more often not with, just because it's that reinforcement of the language. I'm something, Smile will be sitting here in the same. I can see the TV from here, and she'll be watching these things, and I'm just like, I don't want to watch this. And again, it's almost like, to me, it's veering into the, although it's classified as thriller, for me, some of it is veering into the kind of the horror. But it's the horror of reality of what people will really do. And it's just, no, I can't be dealing with it.
Right.
I'd rather watch a sort of blood and guts kind of war film type affair.
Oh, war? No. Can't do those.
One single lunatic's fine, but a group of them's not.
I just seriously, I cry the entire time during war films. I cannot do it. I just cannot handle it. What were you about to say, Grant?
Well, I was going to say, this is why I like post-apocalyptic movies, because it's often about, it's not about, even if it's a zombie movie, it's often not about the zombies. It's about what humans will do to each other when faced with tough decisions. Whether it's slitting someone's ankle so that you can get away, right?
Mad Max 2?
Yeah, Mad Max. Love Mad Max.
Actually, it was the end of Mad Max, wasn't it? It was the end of Mad Max, not Mad Max 2. It was the end of Mad Max, wasn't it?
Well, which one is the first Mad Max that you've seen? Are you talking the Mad Max, the
original
Australian, the original one that was, I don't know if they were released in the UK, but in North America, it wasn't really released.
Okay.
And then the second Mad Max, which a lot of people think is the first Mad Max, was Mad Max Road Warrior. I think it's... And that at the very start of it, summarizes up within a minute the entire first movie.
Yeah. I saw the first Mad Max first.
Okay.
Yeah, starting with the kind of he was kind of normal life and the boom.
Yes. And then Mad Max is Road Warrior, and then Beyond Thunderdome, and then Fury Road.
So I have just realized, thanks to your explanation, Grant, that I have never seen the first one. I started with the Road Warrior. Yeah, because I had that in my head for the first one.
And this is the constant conversation on the internet with people from America who think that the way that they get presented stuff is the only way in the world.
We are the only country that exists, Grant. Come on. Yeah. You should know that. Everyone's from America on the internet.
I discovered recently, accidentally, we went and watched Demolition Man.
Oh, yeah.
And the UK version of Demolition Man that I watched when I was younger is exactly the same as the North American version. But the European version of it, they changed the restaurant chain. So it's not Taco Bell.
Oh, no.
Oh.
they picked another of the restaurant chains that was owned by the same parent company. So it's a Pizza Hut.
Oh, interesting.
So
Badly
strange.
dubbed over the top. So you've got, we're going to Pizza Hut. And it's just, it's awful. It's really, really awful. And they've superimposed Pizza Hut logos. Because Taco Bell wasn't a thing back in the mid-90s. It wasn't a thing in Europe. The UK was aware of Taco Bell, so they thought, we'll just leave it in there. But they could have picked KFC, because the same parent company owned Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut. But they chose Pizza Hut. So it was just, I went down this rabbit hole of trying to work it out, because I got to that point in the film, and seeing, as soon as he said Pizza Hut, I was like, that's wrong. I mean, it looks wrong, seeing that he says Taco Bell, and then you hear Pizza Hut. But then they put, as they pull up to the restaurant, they've superimposed the Pizza Hut logo over the Taco Bell logo.
Oh my god!
Everywhere apart from on all of the windows, so you can still see the Taco Bell logo on every single window that's in the thing. But as they drive up, the main placard outside has got the Pizza Hut logo on it.
Oh my god! That you tried star gift. That's all they needed there. God.
But yeah, I was like,
three shells.
It just freaked me out. Yeah, everything else in the movie is identical. I've seen that film so many times, and it wasn't until watching this version of it, why the hell's that wrong? And I went down that rabbit hole, and they basically sort of said that that's purely the European version of it.
Gotta love Pizza the Hut. Spaceballs was a fabulous movie. To change the topic to good movies instead of or out of thrillers and things, because anytime I make a combination on something, I like to make it 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like if I can set it like my luggage. Like the luggage is like, if anyone wants in the luggage, you can get through that zipper by just pushing really hard, right?
Yeah.
Like it's only on there so that it doesn't. Right, so that the zippers don't undo by accident. Like that's why I lock mine, is so that the zippers don't just work their way apart. So yeah, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, just like my luggage. It's a wonderful line.
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken that back to Spaceballs, but it works.
Right. So, well, that's Pizza the Hut. Did you guys know why the Han Solo character dressed the way he did?
No.
So George Lucas apparently said, you can spoof Star Wars, no problem, but I don't want you to dress Han Solo like Han Solo. You have to dress him differently, right? I don't want him to be like, that's the one sticking point for some reason. So he dressed him up like Indiana Jones.
Which, I mean, if you're gonna choose from the other options, that is absolutely what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I love those kind of things of parodies of things that don't fully take themselves seriously anyway. Right. Even specifically back to kind of the Star Wars one. I was a big fan of Stargate as well. And there's in the later series of Stargate SG-1, they got to that same sort of point of like, we know it's gone on for ages. We're still trying to drag stories out because people are still saying they want them. So let's just have some fun with it. And there was a point where one of the characters, Daniel Jackson, ends up some far-flung part of space and bumps into some rogue alien woman who just happens to be trying to steal a spaceship or something like that. And she's like, "Who the hell are you?" He says, "The name's Olo. Hans Olo." And that was just, perfect line to put in, and something that's already taken itself very silly and aware that it's gone outside of its original scope. And yeah, it's just perfect.
Well,
so Spaceballs your favourite film then, Grant?
No, I wouldn't say it's my favorite film.
What's your favourite film then?
Probably like the film. Like, okay, when you talk about favorite film, is it the film that I would immediately go to if I wanted to watch a film, or is it the film that I could watch the most amount of times?
Ooh, well, I mean, there's a discussion in itself, isn't it?
Right. So it's like, if I wanted to, if someone's like, you're dying tonight, you can only see one more time, film one more time, and then you're dead. Or I'd probably pick like a super long one. But
I was going to say Lord of the Rings complete director's
Yeah.
cut.
yeah. Oh, so talking about Lord of the Rings, I do love Lord of the Rings. I watched Lord of the Rings again, and for the first time, didn't watch the director's cut. And I was like, what the fuck's happening? Why are they doing this? They cut so much out of it.
Yeah.
And I watched it with my wife, and she's never seen the director's cut. And so we were watching it on Amazon, and so that's why we were watching whatever cut was on there. And I was like, this story no longer makes sense with what they've cut out. The motivations are gone, right?
Yeah.
And I just went, this sucks. So I've never seen the final film director's cut. I've seen the first two director's cut, and then I went to the theaters to see the final film, and I've never seen the final film director's cut. So one day I'm going to do that.
Good. The extended version of Three Kings, Return of the King's great. Another one that's very much the same is Independence Day.
Oh yeah.
When I first watched Independence Day, I was young enough to just go, "Oh, this is a fun film. It's a good giggle. It's it is what it is." And then I watched the director's cut of it, and all the stuff that they cut out was the stuff that actually made the story make sense. Like the plot hole that everyone says of like, well, how did they know to just plug a Mac in and upload a virus? There's a whole chunk of like experimentation of trying to interface a computer with the alien ship and discovery of how they can do this kind of stuff.
Right.
So there's about an extra 15-20 minutes worth of like useful information that explains the stuff and fills in all the plot holes that they created by cutting it back to an hour and a half or whatever it was.
So to go back to answer your question, if it's you can only watch one more film, I'd probably say something like either Shawshank Redemption or Boondock Saints.
Nice.
And that would be like a real hard choice there.
I did love Boondock Saints when I was in high school. I probably watched that like hundreds of times. So good.
That is a good question, though.
Jessy, what would be your favourite film, do you think? I'm stalling for time, by the way, because I'm not
trying to
sure
think.
what my answer would be. Which is why Jamie's going next.
I guess I'm going to take it the way that Grant did. Because, the one that I will immediately watch, The Thing, I've already said it. I love that. But if I was dying and someone said, what would you want to watch before you go? I would probably choose The Fall, which is it's basically a fantasy story that's told from a soldier to a child. It has Lee Pace in it and some of the most beautiful visuals in any movie ever. It is just perfect in every way. If I wanted to see something before I went out, The Fall, 100%.
Nice choice.
Jamie?
Yeah, I think for me, our standard like go-to film in this household of like, let's put a film on that we just know hits every time is Red with Bruce Willis and that lot.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I've seen that.
I still need to watch it.
Yeah, it's Retired and Extremely Dangerous. It's really, really, really good fun. It's super silly. It's Bruce Willis as a retired CIA operative, special ops type, just getting old and then kind of gets called back into action. But it's such a good film. I think if you're looking at like silly, always hits as a really silly film in a kind of an action genre is The Big Hit with Mark Wahlberg and Lou Diamond Phillips. Again, super, super silly film. It's another kind of doesn't take itself seriously. So they've got, it's a group of hitmen who end up just doing some really, really bad decisions. Sort
Yeah,
of
I
like
just saw a screenshot where they have some sort of scopes or something attached to their head. What is happening?
Yeah. So like in the trailer, he's got the scope on, and they cut the power, and then the one guy goes in to take everyone out, and he's like effectively breakdancing on the floor, shooting everyone while he's spinning around on his back, and then rolling down the side of the stairs, rolling down the banister
I
while
love
shooting. It's so far beyond stupid, it's unreal, but a very, very silly, funny film.
Yeah,
Andy, what about you?
I mean, choose so difficult. I rarely watch films more than once.
Yeah.
I think for me, in terms of watching films more than once, the ones that spring to mind, I've watched mostly because of having kids. The Harry Potter films, they've all been watched multiple times. Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, they've all been watched multiple times. The Marvel films have all been watched multiple times, mostly through having kids. And yeah, I don't mind. They're all good films. They're all well made. Yeah, yes, I mean, you can. Some people don't like Marvel. Some people like Harry Potter and whatever. But yeah, as a family, we've certainly enjoyed those as films. My wife, she wouldn't watch the Marvel films. I think she's watched half of one. That's about it. Yeah, she gets confused as to what's happening, and it's like, right, I'm not interested. So she'll go off and some Scandi noir killer program
God,
instead.
I agree with her.
But I think if I had to watch one last film, I know it's a bit corny, but probably something like Princess Bride.
I can't argue with that. It's so good.
It's a good film. Such a good film. Bit of adventure, bit of love.
I think that's where you've then got things like Howl's Moving Castle or Spirited Away or things like that are just phenomenal films, start to finish.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shrek, the Shrek films.
No, I didn't really enjoy those. But yeah,
I only saw the first one.
Maybe I should keep this for the after show actually. But I'm a bit of a sucker for a British rom-com.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Notting Hill. Yeah, I did like Notting Hill.
Love Actually,
or something like Love Actually. Yeah, great. Or something like Paddington. That's one we've watched a few times. Paddington and Paddington 2. Yeah, kind of. It's. I mean, that's still essentially I call them a rom-com, sort of rom-comedy. Yeah, there's that element of kind of bit of action, bit of something happening. Yeah, somebody gets a bit heartbroken, but then they get their heart fixed again. Yeah, it's like
Paddington the Bear is a rom-com.
There's love in it, Grant. There's love.
Okay, I'm just saying, I've never seen it, so I don't know. It doesn't seem to me like when I see a bear, and I know who Paddington is. I had one as a kid. When I see Paddington Bear, I don't think of romantic feelings, but I guess I have to go watch it.
It's kind of more it's. I wouldn't call it. It's not necessarily the romantic feelings, as in kind of man.
There's no sex scenes in it.
Man. There's absolutely no sex in it at all.
Yeah.
I think one of them's got a little bit of nudity. One of them's got a little bit of nudity, but not anything.
Bear nudity or person?
Does Paddington take off his trench coat?
I might be wrong. Several times you see him in the bath.
Just takes his hat off.
Yeah. But I tell you what, you've got kids, Grant. Yeah. In a couple of years' time, Paddington is a family film. Absolutely brilliant film.
If I could get my son to watch movies, it would be wonderful. He is part of the YouTube generation, and he can't watch anything for more than like a minute before switching to a new thing. So he starts watching a YouTube video. Like when I go through my history, so I let him watch, which I probably shouldn't because sometimes he gets on some channels that are probably not appropriate where they're playing like Grand Theft Auto. But he's like watching a lot of like Minecraft or like Hot Wheels or whatever. But then like that whoever's playing Minecraft ends up playing Grand Theft Auto. Anyways, I go through his history and he's watching like 1 minute here, 3 minutes there, 1 minute there. When I try and put him on like a video, like an actual Disney movie, he'll get into it and then he'll just be like, I want to watch something else. And I'm like, well, no, we're only like even if we get 30 minutes into it, I'm like, this is great. He's finally watching it. And he's like, nah, I'm done. I don't want to watch the end of it. I'm like, you don't want to watch the end? No.
We had the same here. We've got a sort of nearly 14-year-old in the house, and finally sat down as a family to watch Underworld recently, because that's kind of it's in the right sort of vein of where their head's at the minute, and it's such a good film anyway. But even still, it's just over 2 hours, I think, and it was at that point of like sort of 45 minutes in of like, how long's left? Just, I'm not even checking. Sit and watch.
I wonder if older movies, I feel like I can't, in some like TV shows, I feel like I can't get through them the way I used to be able to.
The pacing is a lot different.
Yeah.
Like when you think about how media is changed, because I've experienced the same problem going back, and like, I don't know, like a TV show like The Sopranos, which is very long, and the pace is relatively slow compared to something like Lost that's also long, but it's just crazy the whole time. So like, yeah, it's definitely, the older it is, the weirder the pacing is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So Underworld's kind of old, so maybe that's the problem.
Well, no, because they're very much the same. Of like, if it's a 20-minute TV show, they're fine. But if it's something that's like 40 minutes or anything longer than that, and it's always about that sort of 20-minute mark, there's the how long's left, or they just click the button on the remote to see where it is on the timeline.
So I'll look through like Netflix and I'll say I want to like whatever Disney Plus or whatever Prime, whatever the thing is I'm watching, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, 2-hour movie, I don't think I can do that. And then I'll sit and watch 4 hours of TV. Right, to show after show after show, and I don't even move. Right, like it's like, why? And I think the psychological thing behind it is after 20 minutes I have another choice, or after 40 minutes I have another choice. I can leave, and the fact that we don't have commercials anymore, I think actually adds to that. Now you need to have. I can't watch long movies anymore because there's no commercial break that gives me that like break. I can figure out, do I still want to watch this or not?
Well, that's where the Wayne's World movie is perfect, because that's got the break at about an hour and a half in between the first half and the second half of the film. You have to watch Wayne's World 1 and 2 as one lump.
Yeah.
Never seen them. Never watched Wayne's World.
I've only seen one. It wasn't a horror movie, so I didn't come back, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. But so much of modern comedy in a lot of these kind of movies stems from a lot of those. So that's what we've been trying to do, kind of for the cultural education in the household. Sit down and watch this film from the 90s because you need to. It's education.
Yeah, you need to get the references later, children, or you won't fit in. It's very important.
Exactly. You know that really bad joke I cracked the other day? Well, it's from this film.
Yeah, that'll make all the difference for who can watch it. Yeah. I think it's some films. A couple of years ago, I was struggling with kind of sort of sleep and wanting to kind of sort of watch something kind of a bit later in the evening after everyone else had gone to bed, and kind of thought, well, rather than just sticking on YouTube, I'll sort of go through, like Grant says, Netflix, Prime, whatever. I started kind of dipping at some of the kind of films from my youth, and kind of and I used to watch even when I was living with my dad. We used to kind of watch quite a lot of martial arts films. Yeah, and I'm talking the days of kind of going out and getting a tape. From sort of the shop, and then sort of watching it, and I was just like, I put on over the course of a couple of evenings, I put on a couple of Jean-Claude Van Damme films and a couple of Steven Seagal films, which I'd enjoyed massively as a kind of late teenager, early 20s. Oh God, they were rubbish.
Yeah, isn't it so sad how they don't hold up? It's like if you're
not hold up at all.
If you're not watching with a group and not talking while they're doing the bad acting talking scenes, like it's just they don't hold up. I love the fight scenes. I wish I could watch like a 15-minute version of all of them.
Yeah, cut all the dialogue out, like something like Out for Justice or Nico or one of those that that era of Steven Seagal films. cut all the dialogue out, squash it down to a 5-minute kind of, here's where he puts a meat cleaver in someone's thigh. Cool, job done. Next film.
Yes. Yeah, whatever. Or like at the bare minimum, strip any love story that happened out of it. Those were always so painful. Like I hate romance in general as a genre. So like when it starts bleeding into that, I'm just like, no, this is unbearable. None of you know how to act. You don't know what to say to anyone. Stop.
And it's all been written by a man who's got no experience with dating anyone anyway.
Yep, it's a very strange
science.
fantasy. Yeah. It's like a middle school play fantasy of what love is. It's real weird.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Another film, just to put another one out there, Shaun of the Dead. I could watch that one. That would be another one that would be real hard to say no to.
Yeah.
Like if they had the I don't know, I might even pick that one over the other two movies I mentioned.
Well, choice. See, Shooting Fish is one for me that's like a huge amount of nostalgia. Again, it's mid-90s British comedy about like con artistry, and again, it's loads of nostalgia for me. But it's a film that so few people have actually watched. But it's such a weird little niche kind of thing. But it's got Stuart Townsend and what's her face from Underworld.
Kate Beckinsale?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, that's her name. It's like I don't remember.
Like two actors who became incredibly famous. Just in like them just being young. It's like 96, I think, something like that.
Oh wow, yeah, I just pulled the trailer up and I'm like, oh my gosh, they look like babies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, not a Kate Beckinsale film, but for some reason that nudged into my head a film that I have seen a few times, and in fact, it's probably the only Tom Cruise film that I would have watched repeatedly, and which has two names, I believe. That's Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat. Tom Cruise and Emily. I can't remember her name.
It's like something really flat. It's Blunt.
There we go. I just saw it on Wikipedia.
I was thinking, is it Emily Blunt? And then when you said flat, that threw me then for a second.
See, I'm hopeless at remembering. I'm generally hopeless at remembering kind of pop culture stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't have got it. But
I
don't know if it's because Tom Cruise. I think it's. I don't know if it's just because it's Tom Cruise getting repeatedly killed. But I really enjoyed that film.
It's very dark there.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's a cracking film. It's a cracking sci-fi. Yeah.
Is this? I swear this came out just like 2 years ago. Was it just like super re-released or something? Because
no,
it must have just popped in like Netflix Canada and been like a thing.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
Because I remember watching it going, this is a good movie. And why did I never hear about it? I guess it just got,
Well, so I have a question about this movie. The giant sword that Emily Blunt has, like, is this a Cloud Strife Final Fantasy VII sort of thing? Is she like destroying the ground and throwing people with it? Because if so, I might watch it.
No, not quite. No, not quite.
Damn it. It looked really good from the poster. I thought, yeah.
Well, it's got Emily Blunt in it. I mean, that's that. Yeah, I'll stop there. I think it's part of the helicopter rotor. I think.
Ah, okay, that makes sense why it's so large. Because I was like, why?
And she's like a bit of a super warrior. Yeah, she's like super fit and super fast, but not not chemically enhanced like as Captain America. Just more the fact that she's just super focused.
And they're wearing mech suits. exoskeleton suits, so
That'll do it.
They probably have a little bit extra strength there.
Okay. See, I couldn't see her legs before because I didn't zoom in. So yeah, I was just looking at Tom Cruise's gun arms and thinking like, Barrett, is that you? And then, yeah, the giant sword. That looks really amazing.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's definitely a good film.
Yeah. Good action film, for sure. And I agree with watching Tom Cruise die over and over is always a good thing.
So what worst film then?
So
The Others.
Really?
It's just awful.
Oh, was that actually? I thought it meant just all the rest of the films.
No, it was in it.
Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise's ex.
Yeah.
And I'll go for another horrible one, Eyes Wide Shut, which is also Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, I hated that one.
So we could just go. Let's just name a bunch of Nicole Kidman movies and see if they. I feel bad. I'm sure she's.
If we want to stick with sort of the Tom Cruise, not Nicole Kidman, but Tom Cruise, the Jack Reacher films.
Good or bad?
Oh, I've never seen those.
Bad, but only because they're called Jack Reacher films. If they'd have called it some other name, that'd have been perfectly fine.
So does it not match the books like at all?
Yeah, for me, I'm a big Jack Reacher fan in terms of the books. I've read all the books. We'll try and read them when they come out. And so I've read again one of the few books. I tend not to read books repeatedly. There are very books that I will read again and again. Some books I'll read twice, and that'll be it. Yeah, the books I've read.
Dictionaries are good to dip in and out of quite often.
Yeah, Douglas Adams, I can read any of those multiple times. Lord of the Rings, multiple times. Jack Reacher, generally twice is enough on those. But there's many books I won't read more than once.
Yeah.
So I know the character. I know the character really well. And just like Amazon Prime got it right. Yeah. Giant of a guy, stupidly intelligent, monster fists, monster just beat anything, march through walls, just a tank of a man, with kind of Scandinavian and French heritage. So they kind of got it right, Amazon.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So if I were drawing a picture, I would have drawn up Tom Cruise right there. That's.
I mean, is there ever a point where someone has a concept of a character in their mind, and Tom Cruise is the actor you pick to play that character?
Well, Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, somebody getting.
See, you got to wonder when they're doing these things where there's clearly a novel, and there is most novels have some descriptors that try to, so that you can help to paint the picture in your mind.
Yeah,
and they get these, and the casting people are given them, and then they go. Like I can get okay, you're gonna go completely. You're gonna gender reverse it. Okay, it can happen. You can make that a point because otherwise the entire film would have been all men or something. You know what I mean? But I can understand you wanting to add a little bit of something with that. But when they get them so different, and you just wonder, is it because did Tom Cruise weasel his way in there,
probably,
or did they want him? Which way did it go?
It's like, we'd like to make a movie with you in it. What would you like the plot to be? That kind of thing.
Well, something that I've heard about, it happens in horror movies. I'm sure it happens in other genres where, an actor will really have loved something. Loved the book or loved the original version of something. Yeah. And so they have their agent basically listening to the ground at all times if anything is moving on that project so that they can get in. So yeah, I wonder how often Tom Cruise has done that because he's always wrongly cast. He just stands out like a sore thumb. He never blends in with everyone else, you know. He's just so recognizable, and he doesn't, I don't know, his like the range of his acting is not quite as big as most of the actors that we're all familiar with, you know. Like I constantly think, was it The Last Samurai? I think that's the movie he was in. And I swear to God, he had something in his contract where he couldn't get too upset or his face couldn't get too dirty. Because the entire movie, I was so obsessed with like how clean he looked despite fighting in the mud and doing all this crazy stuff. I just, like, it took me out of it entirely because he was there.
Yeah, breaking that suspension of disbelief. But we were talking the other week about this with like the Fast and the Furious films, and you got Dwayne Johnson, Vin Diesel, and Jason Statham all have written into their contract that they can't lose fights. So there's a film where, it's all written into their contract. So there's a film with all three of them fighting, and the only way to get out of that fight was to have an earthquake.
Oh my God!
Because then nobody lost the fight. That was the only way the production crew could actually figure it to be able to not breach contract.
Wow.
Oh my God!
Vanilla Sky was a Tom Cruise movie.
Tom Cruise.
Is that a different version of the film that you were watching?
That was the porn parody. It was very different.
Anyway, I thought that one was a good one. That he was well cast in.
I don't think I've seen that one. Maybe that's the one I need to see, that he will blend in and make sense.
See, it's just that's just triggered something in my head of a story from an old work colleague of talking about like the porn parodies. When Pacific Rim came out, one of my colleagues came into work and said that they'd decided to torrent the film, and it was not the right version of the film.
I'm not even going to try to speculate on what I think it was, because I don't think we should say all of those words.
But the same guy, he'd also done it another time, and I forget what the other film was, but he'd grabbed another film he didn't know anything about. He'd just heard this was supposed to be a good film, and he just grabbed the download. And he, I've just seen Duncan's comment. But he downloaded this other film, and he'd got about 45 minutes into the film, not being able to understand a word that was being said. And it wasn't until that point he saw someone speaking in English, but heard not English, and then finally made that connection. It took him 45 minutes to realize he'd downloaded the Russian version.
Oh my God.
And basically just sat watching this film. Just thought it was part of it, that, you know, you weren't meant to understand the dialogue at this point.
I hate when they do that. Every time that there's this, like, they're speaking another language and they don't put subtitles, because the reason I hate it, if they want to speak an alien language, no problem. But if they do a language, there's going to be people in the audience who know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just put the subtitles for all of us who want to know.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, well, and I'm a movie reader. Like, subtitles are always on. I love it because then I know how to spell people's names, or like if it's a town name or something that I don't understand. Yeah, I always have to have the subtitles on for that reason. It's just, I hate it. Yeah, I really hate it when people are having a conversation. I'm not let in on it. I really want to know.
I'm very much the same. I if I'm watching something with the family, it's just the thing's on, and if I miss something, I miss something. But I sometimes struggle a bit with the audio processing. So if I'm watching something myself, I'll have the subtitles on anyway, just for that same kind of thing of missing the odd word, or if the dialogue goes quiet, or you mishear something, or stuff like that. So I'm very much that same way of just being used to reading it all.
Yep. Yeah, well, and so talking about subtitles being very useful, have any of y'all seen Skinamarink?
No.
Okay, so it's a newish horror film, of course. And it's very experimental, and it's basically following two kids who are in a house where the windows and doors start disappearing and their parents are gone, and it's sort of following them trying to figure out what's happening. And the sound in that movie was so bad and so much of the same that I had to turn subtitles on to actually know if there was anything happening for me to pay attention to. Because the film is, like I said, it's experimental. So it's a lot of shots of like a corner or like, you know, a hallway floor or like a part of a cabinet in a kitchen. You know, there's not a lot happening. And then, yeah, when I turn the subtitles on, there are whole sentences and like tiny discussions happening that I had no idea. And I had watched it for like a half hour. And I was just like, well, we're just going to keep going because I don't want to watch that again. It's not really very scary, like, or at least not to me. Some people find it very scary. But it's experimental and atmospheric, I think would be the nicest description I can give of it. It just didn't do it for me.
Lots of unintelligible mumbling in the background is kind of what you
Yeah, just all these noises where you're like, I don't know if I should be paying attention to that. Like, and there's a TV also in a lot of the scenes playing old, like black and white cartoons. So yeah, there's just so much happening, and I was never sure if any of it mattered or not.
I find it fascinating how some people will delve so far into it, and sort of into films. And what I really appreciate, I'm not the person to kind of spot it, but it's this sort of thing you kind of read about, but where directors and writers have made the effort to put little, almost Easter eggs in deliberately, and little references to other films, maybe films they've done, or just a film that feel inspired. And I can't think of any example off the top of my head right now, but
Scream is a good example, or like the Saw franchise. Like Scream and Saw, I think, are like the most like referential films that I can think of, where like Scream is, you know, all horror, like talking about all the like main points and characters and plot devices, and then like Saw is really self-referential, where like everything in the series is sort of interwoven and crazy. Yeah.
See, I like that. I was thinking Futurama. Often in the background, you'll see jokes and references to start, like, whatever the Matt Groening is thinking of, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and along those lines, like Family Guy and Simpsons, too, like, same thing. Just so many jokes that I wonder if all of them are understandable now, you know, because it's not really a top of cultural mind anymore.
Right. Yeah, and talking to Matt Groening, Disenchantment is a kind of other one. So, you know, it's kind of Simpsons, Futurama, and Disenchantment are his kind of three bigs, and they all kind of reference various bits of each other. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. That like you said, seeing the Easter eggs, it kind of makes you feel a bit more part of it when you've got those, when you pick up those references to other things.
Definitely.
But going back slightly, you're talking about kind of films not seeming quite right. Jamie, when you were talking about your friend kind of watching it for 45 minutes before he realised it wasn't the correct language. First time we watched Prisoner of Azkaban on DVD, we hadn't seen it in the cinema, so we were watching it, and it was like, well, this is really. We were saying this is really dark. Yeah, in terms of the filming, it was like everything seemed much more kind of dark and had taken a dark turn, and so they were kind of, it was the whole filming, the whole kind of color balancing was much, much darker. And my wife kept sort of saying, no, it can't be like this. It's not like this at all. And we got to a particular bit, and there was suddenly this quite horrible green cast to the color. I said, that's not right. Turns out the SCART lead was loose on the back of the TV. Push it in right, and suddenly the whole thing's nice and light and back to the same sort of color casting. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. She didn't let me forget that for months. Yeah, sort of thing. She'd still bring up if it came up again.
Well, talking, sort of Harry Potter versus, like we were talking about casting choices before. You look at the descriptions from the books of the characters versus the people that they cast. The descriptions of, the three main young people. They're similar enough that you could say, oh well, that's very clearly Harry Potter, and it's very clearly Ron Weasley, and of course you look at the description of Professor Snape that is basically just be Alan Rickman, and then they cast Alan Rickman.
Oh yeah, God, I love him in the movies so much. I hated him in the books. But then once Alan Rickman became Snape, it's like, oh, okay, I like you. I changed my mind.
Makes it better, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I think for those three characters too, because they each have like one super identifiable trait, it was so much easier to just like see that and be like, that's that person. I think we were all more accepting because of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Rickman was a tremendous actor. Really was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he got into it really late, didn't he? I think he was in his 40s by the time he started acting. He was a painter and decorator or something before then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some sort of construction or renovation. Yeah.
Don't know.
I think we were talking Harrison Ford before because he was a carpenter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got
I didn't know that until recently. Pretty wild.
A few people got into acting late. I mean, was it Morgan Freeman? He got into acting quite late. And Samuel L. Jackson, he got into movies quite late as well, I think.
Yeah, well, because when I think about it, they're always like 30 or up, when I think about them in my head.
And
Child
those two
actors
just
burn out.
Yeah. I think those two specifically, Morgan Freeman and Samuel L. Jackson, they just play themselves now anyway. They're not really acting anymore. They're just remembering lines and being themselves. Much like Nicolas Cage.
Oh, Nicolas Cage is my favorite. I was going to bring him up earlier and we went a different direction. But he is my absolute favorite. Like when you're thinking of action movies, I will watch fucking anything he's in. I worked at a used bookstore for a really long time. That was my last career before Instructables. And I bought every movie of his that came in. And by the time I left, I had 70 of his movies. And it was pretty much my entire movie collection. And I haven't kept up with it, but I would like to because he makes me so happy. He is just so wild. And I love that he can be absolutely amazing and believable and empathetic. And then sometimes he just goes completely off the deep end. He's wearing a hairpiece that's flapping around and his accent's changing all over. He is chaos personified and I love him for it.
That same work colleague who'd had the unfortunate issues with the movies, we used to work quite closely together, and because I sort of run the IT, I would do April Fool's pranks, and I generally either stay late the night before or come in early and just set random shit up on everyone's machines, tape over the bottom of the mouse or rotating the screens round, or just lots of silly little stuff that everyone has a giggle with in the morning and then carries on with the rest of their day. And for him, I installed this plugin for Chrome called Ncage, and what it does is it intercepts every single image on any website that you go to and replaces it with a photo of Nicolas Cage.
Guess what I'm getting, everybody?
That's awesome.
And so I put that on his, and he kept it on there until about lunchtime.
My favorite prank to play is to take a screenshot of someone's desktop.
Yep.
Oh, that's so mean.
Remove all the icons and and put that as their background. It's wonderful to see people clicking and losing their minds.
When Windows 7 or it might have even been earlier. It might have been Vista days. But when they first started doing the roll-in desktop backgrounds, where you just dump everything into a folder and it would just automatically change them at a set interval, I'd started working at a place where a couple of the lads they'd kind of plow through their workday really quickly and then just sit and chat for the rest of the day and just kind of move their mouse around so it looked like they were doing something but sat chatting. So I just took a load of screenshots of what they were doing, all the drawings and their work, did exactly that for them, and they just open the software up in the morning, do their work, and then they just drop back to the desktop and it would just cycle through images, so they didn't even need to move their mouse.
Wow. So if you really want, you can go to a YouTube page that looks like the update. Your Windows update.
There's a site that you can pick what you want. Yeah.
So then it's just like, oh, well, it's updating, so can't do any work.
It used to be because I use AutoCAD as kind of the software I'm using constantly, and it used to be that thing because the F1 key would load up the help, and it used to take a good kind of 5 minutes or so to like properly load the help, and then all the files loading in and things. So if you accidentally hit F1, you just go make a brew because there was no point trying to do anything else. You couldn't do anything until it all loaded, and then you could close it down. And of course, F1 is right next to the escape key, which is to exit the command that you're in. Mm-hmm. So it was far too easy. So quite often in CAD shops, you'd have people they'd have popped the F1 key off the keyboard. Just from it disrupting the workday, just from accidentally going to hit escape and hitting F1. But of course, it used to be a great excuse then if you were, feeling a bit thirsty or you just wanted a break for a few minutes. You just like, whoops, oh well.
I wonder if there's any other features in there like that I can tell my sister about. That's what she does. She just, drafting all day, every day in AutoCAD constantly. Yep. So, I wonder how.
Annoyingly, they've made it a lot quicker now.
Yeah, well, and that's just what I was thinking because, I don't have much relationship with AutoCAD where I work, but I do with Fusion 360. And so, you hear a lot of stuff about all the improvements and all the complaints people have. So it's just,
I mean, Fusion 360 is unbelievably easy to break anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah, I have found that out too. Yeah.
So, hey, be careful about this might be a place where we don't want to be talking about your employer. Just put that out there.
Keep that for the after show. Yeah. I don't think I've ever taken the closest I've ever done to pranking anyone on April's Fool is when I was teaching. You can't exactly kind of go, oh, I've just hit the F1 key by accident. I mean, more often than not, it'd be frustrating when something like the projector didn't work or the computer decided to update just as you're trying to load a PowerPoint or something. But I think the closest I've ever got to sort of PowerPoint is, sort of kids walking in and going, yep, test today. They're like, what? Well, they hadn't got a test, but I mean, that's pretty lame, really. So, they're really dumb.
Want to know something fun that happened in my programming class? So everyone had obviously computers programming, and every once in a while, a screen would pop up that needed an administrator password. Mm-hmm. And the one kid who was really good at coded, so it looked like it, and got the teacher to come over and put in his password. But the kid wasn't smart enough to think about the teacher misspelt it, so went to press backspace, and it kept filling in letters. Right, because he had just a keylogger until you hit enter, it's going to keep adding little black dots or stars or whatever it was. So I remember that being fun, and then he got in trouble.
We had my first paid school. After sort of training, we had a kid. Actually, he was in my form who did something similar. I mean, we're looking back kind of late 90s. He set up basically took a snapshot of the login page and turned it into a sort of thing. And of course, he set a script so that it would just kind of not do anything. And then people would give up and go to another machine, but it was recording the username and password. And eventually he got found out and kicked out. And I suspect he's probably making a nice fortune. He's either in jail or he's making a nice fortune working in IT now.
Yeah, or both.
Yeah.
So, yeah, at my old college, we had a bit of software running called Deep Freeze, and it would basically the IT admins would set all the machines up and then set Deep Freeze running. And it basically meant that any user could log in, do absolutely anything to the machine, and all they had to do was restart it. So it disabled the login, and the only option was basically to restart, and that just completely set the whole machine back to what it was. So I mean, you could literally you could log in and you could delete as much as you could from the C drive, and install whatever the hell you wanted, uninstall anything, make any changes to the machine. As soon as you hit reboot, back to as it was. It's like super clever bit of software. But because of I was doing a lot of other IT stuff at college, but I was also doing AutoCAD. And to do AutoCAD, you had to have admin rights on your user profile. But because I was also doing some of the IT, like techie stuff, some of the other lads I used to game with, would get like one of the free rooms and play like Red Alert 2 or something like that. They didn't have admin rights, whereas I did. And because I had like network knowledge and hung out with a few of the techs and stuff as well. Every time one of them, like on Red Alert 2, he used to just make shitloads of conscripts and then just crash the game, or just like, instead of having a strategic plan, his strategy was just to overwhelm whoever it was with just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of the same unit, because they were super cheap, super quick. So the second one of us saw his screen that he was doing that, I just alt-tab out the game and then remotely restart his PC. He couldn't do anything about it, but he'd be mid-game and his machine would just suddenly restart. He'd have to install it again and try and jump back in the game quickly.
Wow.
I used to love the monitoring software you used to have in school. So you could see what the kids were doing, and it's just like you send them little messages. Ticker tape across the top of the screen. Get back to work. Yeah. Just free, or you could just completely blank the screen, or you could kick them out. You could, that was quite satisfying.
So my mate did that. It's the guy. He still works at that college. He's an absolute legend, and he just. Same thing, he's super smart, just kind of has fun playing with the people who are breaking the systems. And it's saying the other week, one of the students who was downloading, like torrenting a massive game, in like 3 big parts or something like that. It's a backbone onto SuperGenet, so it's like a super fast connection. So he's hoovering in this massive file. So my mate's just watching him on the remote monitoring software. He's just watching everything that's going on. As soon as the file hit his home drive, what my mate did was just created a notepad file in the same name, changed the extension, and deleted the files. So he downloaded these 3 massive files and then went to run it, and it just opens up the notepad saying, report to IT admin,
I bet that got his attention.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Learning. I'm learning. Taking lessons from Steve. Not Steve's done any segues lately.
Not for a while.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so what's our attention grabbers? Things that have been grabbing our attention, things that we found interesting, things we're doing, things we've been watching, reading, whatever, past, present, recent past, current, present, or near future.
Not the last hour and 13 minutes of the podcast's worth.
Maybe a bit further back from that, maybe, 2 hours ago, perhaps, yeah.
So what's been grabbing my attention? Well, I've just been thinking about movies a lot. Just really like good ones and bad ones and
pranks. We think pranks. Yeah.
Pranks have been grabbing my attention very recently.
So, what's been grabbing your attention lately?
Yeah. So the 2 things that I'll talk about is the first, the thing that's happening in the Futures Maker Camp. The Catskills Mountain Maker Camp is next weekend, which happens to be Canadian Thanksgiving as well, but I guess I'll miss out on that. Luckily, I called my dad, and he had totally forgot that it was Thanksgiving, so that would have been something.
You can always count on dads for that.
Yeah. He said,
Maker's Camp does look really good. I mean, seeing it over the last couple of years, definitely a case of FOMO with that. It's
hug all of the people for us, please.
Yeah, I think the only person I'll know that you guys know is like Steve.
Rasmus.
I don't know if there's Rasmus.
Rasmus.
There'll be a few there that.
Yeah.
Rasmus is getting my tent again. He used my tent last year, so it's gonna. He messaged me and asked if I'm gonna come and bring my tent. So I was, sure.
There's a few guests from here. From Miggs Waffle going to be there. Dave Bauer's going to be there.
Oh yeah,
probably because he's local. Yeah,
he's definitely going to be there. He's running the print thing again. So he was doing little lino prints, I think.
Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to do it last year. Yeah, I guess there has been a few deaths. Whenever I think of you guys, I just think of the UK, and that's it. And I don't get beyond that, right?
We've had. I mean, we've mostly had. Yeah, we've mostly had, but we've had a few international. We got you guys. Yeah, we've had Morley on.
Yeah, Morley's going to be there. Who else? Anyways, that's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm preparing for. I'm going to be seeing lots of people that I haven't seen in a while, and I've been going through my toys that I had, all my like childhood toys, because Jade, I don't know if you guys know Other Dog Designs, but his wife Jade has a toy business selling vintage toys now. So I was like, I trust you to not screw me over. Like if you go through my toys and there's like, one thing that's worth like one random thing worth $1,000 and you sell it, you're not going to be like, oh, here's the $2 for that one, right? So I trust her if she finds something in my toys that is actually worth some money that I'll get the money. So I've been going through that, going through all my Star Trek toys is the big ones. I found my transporter.
That transporter is amazing.
Yeah, it's super fun. That's the main things, and I've been working on a. Someone in the Buy Nothing group around our area, had a Powerwheels. I don't know if you guys have Powerwheels. Yeah. It's like a Powerwheels, but it was a cheap Chinese knockoff. But it was remote controlled, and the one that we have is not remote controlled. Which with a little 2-year-old who can't steer, it's really frustrating because you're like bent over steering from the whole time, and then he just runs into stuff. So I was like, great, it's going to be remote controlled. I'll get it. They said it didn't work. They didn't have the charger, and they said it didn't work. So I was like, it's got to be the battery, right? So I take it apart, and it's got two 6-volt batteries, and one of them is reading 2 volts, and the other one's reading 6 volts. So I said, well, that's definitely problematic. So I swap out a battery and start trying to revive the other one. And I get a 12 volts. I'm like, okay, that's great. I put it together. Nothing happens. So then I take apart the controller, and I found a blown-apart capacitor. And so I ordered a new capacitor, which came in yesterday. And I put that in yesterday, and still nothing. So I took apart, so I'm like, well, I'm going to start chasing power, right? See is power making it all the way to the on-off switch. Because it's like got, it's remote control, so it's fancy, and it's got even like an MP3 player you can connect into it and stuff. Anyways, so I'm chasing the power, and it's got power. And then, but none of the button works. Like I press the button, you can test the resistance across it, or the continuity across it, and that seems to work, but nothing's happening. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to start testing other things for power, like where's this power going to? And I connect 2 things, and it starts up. And like I by accident connect 2 things, like I was just with my probe, and it just starts up, and I go, well, that's weird. So maybe I was like, oh, maybe I fixed it. So it didn't. It worked. I could drive around, but I couldn't. None of the buttons worked for anything. So I don't know what I don't. I assume some component is broken, and
just
all
something
the stuff,
that's breaking to ground. That's fail safe. That you've just managed to accidentally bypass.
Yeah. So more to follow on that one. It's just frustrating. It sounds likely that I'm going to have a nothing, and I'm just going to take the components out and add them to my collection of shit that is, I don't know, whatever. That sounds like what's going to happen. But it's frustrating because I was really looking forward to the remote control aspect of it.
Mm.
And because it's some cheap Chinese Walmart brand that like sold it 5 years ago and there's no name on it. Like
it's not like on a standard crystal frequency or anything like that. It's not a 27 megahertz thing that you could just use something else for. Or...
The problem is I can't get power to the I could just wire in my own stuff if I wanted to. I guess that makes sense. Maybe I can do that. Just wire in my own speed control and my own radio control, like from my.
I'm just thinking, like a cheap kind of like a $10 RC car from Walmart, and just strip the guts out and bridge everything into a load of
so the
relays
big thing
or something.
Yeah, the big thing comes with the 12 volt like motors and like getting a controller that can take 12 volts and output to.
Yeah, an RC car's not going to.
You'd be surprised. That's all it is.
Well, possibly a good size one, but a $10 remote control is probably.
So into relays and stuff.
Well, so I have remote control cars. I used to race, and I have them. I just got to figure out if I have. So I switched to brushless, and this is obviously not brushless. So I need to see whether or not I have any brushed speed controllers left over, and then I could just do that, bypass everything. Yeah. Good idea. So now I'm glad I brought it up.
Glad we can help.
Just created more work for you.
Well, then it comes in. The other problem is like the steering is in a servo, like you would think. It's another motor, which is to me weird. I don't understand where. Like, are there limit switches or something? Like, how do you not just have it like strip the gears when you try and turn and you get to the end? But I guess I haven't looked at it at all because I just wanted a plug and play thing because that's just what I want.
I mean, the other option is you could put it on the to-do pile for long enough that he then learns how to drive it without crashing it.
Yeah, I could do that.
It's the other thing is this approach to it.
Yeah,
he's big enough to fix it himself. Yeah,
right. Yeah, the other one's 6 volts and this one's 12 volts. And the 6 volt one, they're not fast enough, and like when you put it in reverse, if you're not on a downward hill, it doesn't work because it just doesn't have enough voltage to go anywhere. So that is, anyways.
What I'm hearing now is future proofing for a 24 volt pack to drop in.
Well, I want to just get my Milwaukee in there, like my batteries from that, because I got a bunch of them. And then I was thinking, I actually have a bunch of 80 volt stuff from Greenworks. I got 40 volt and 80 volt stuff, and I've got a lot of extra batteries for that. And I happen to have an extra 40 volt snowblower that I'm not using. But then we get into the problem with control. So, like, the snowblowers are on off, right? The lawnmowers, they might have a control, but they're pretty much on off. So you don't have the control. And
snowblower and a rudder. That's all he needs.
Yeah, snowblower and a rudder. I like
but a cordless drill. Yeah, most cordless drills have got variable speed just on there. So if you could just wire up the pedal, assuming it's a pedal rather than a hand grip, and if it's a hand grip, just find a different way of doing it, to the speed control trigger of the drill.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's probably got a potentiometer in there for the pedal. That's my guess, is how they do it. Yeah. But if I just throw a drill, I guess I could just throw a drill in there. Just 3D print a holder and throw the drill direct drive to the wheels.
Just disconnect the switch. Disconnect the switch. Attach it to the potentiometer because the switch is just potentiometer.
Right. Now, that being said, I don't know how the brushless ones work. That would be how a brushed motor drill would work for sure.
Witchcraft. That's how the brushless ones work.
Yeah, that's pretty sure. So my drill, if you have a brushless motor and it's still spinning, you can't switch it into reverse. Mm-hmm. And my Milwaukee has something wrong with it. The switch must not get fully, not every time, but sometimes it doesn't get fully extended, and I can even hear it, and then you can't switch it into reverse. And then you have to, I've gotten to the point now where I'm hoping to break it, and I smash it as hard as I can against the floor. And then it works. Yeah. It only needs like a little tiny tap and it works. But I've gotten to the point where I'm. Anyways, sorry, that's
abusing it.
Well, I'm hearing. It sounds like that's a potential donor for the Powerwheels.
Maybe.
Get yourself a new drill.
Yeah, I could. If I could afford a new drill, I would just buy the I would just buy a brand new Powerwheels. Like I don't. Like this seems like it could just make a whole bunch of work for myself. If I'm just going out there spending money, I'll just spend the money on the thing I want.
That sounds
like
sensible.
sounds like you want a new drill as well. So,
well, I could live with the drill half working. I could probably just take the drill apart and like spray some electrical cleaner in the switch, and then it would never do it again. But it's sometimes nice to smash things.
Jessy, what's been grabbing your attention lately?
So now I get to nerd out about something. So basically, I've been talking about this on like the Clamp pre-show all the time, but I have been doing this giant like biodiversity mowing, seed sowing project in my yard. So we have 11 acres up here, and it is land that hasn't really had anything happening on it for a long time. Back in the day, we were like a colony of lettuce farmers, and people do like some horses and agricultural stuff, but our land hasn't really had that. So I have been basically cutting everything back and watching all of everything that isn't grass growing and determining how much the bees liked it, how much the animals around here liked it, and then harvesting seeds from that in my yard and spreading them everywhere. Nice. It's been going on since like May or June, I think now. And I keep saying this is a really weird measurement, so pardon the measurement, but I have put out 6 liters of seeds since like, I don't know, maybe in the last 2 weeks. So yeah,
That's a lot of seed.
It is a lot of seed.
So just for the Americans listening, because I've never had to do it this way, the opposite. 6 liters is 1.58 gallons.
So US gallons or UK gallons?
US gallons.
US.
Yeah, I went specifically for the US ones.
Yeah.
How many weird other strange nonsensical measurement comparisons could that be though?
Well, it would be like 12 pints, which is like something that. But
how many
sorry,
size
those
12
are
boots?
And again, American pints, because it would be 10.5 UK pints.
Right. So I was just going to go, unless you were in Canada, which then we have the proper size pints, which are 20 ounces. In America, a pint's 16. And you go, where's my other 4? I thought you guys were the kings of supersize me until you screw me on the beer.
Yeah.
But it's only like $1.
Nonsense.
So I don't know.
Nonsense down here. Yeah. So, yeah.
So 6 liters of seed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I have a list of some of the stuff that I put out. Alfalfa, because we have elk and pronghorn, and also our neighbors' cows and horses, if they get out, that all really like it. So I figure, why not? Alfalfa everywhere. It has beautiful purple flowers here that range from like white to like a deep, deep purple. And I love it. Red clover, white clover, of course. Yellow milkfetch, which is a strange plant that it looks like almost like chickpeas. The seed pods, they're really big and strange, and animals supposedly like to eat them. So I'm going to try to do more of those. And then let's see, tansy asters and western asters, because the bees really like those. And the same for the white campion and the showy loco weed. And then lupines and beard tongues, I'm also going to be having out. And I love those. Also purple. We have a lot of really like purple flowers here. And I love it. So yeah, I really wish I could fast forward until like June of next year so that I can see if anything took. Because yeah, I mean, I just threw seed, literally. I didn't combine it with any soil or anything, because almost all of the yard I have mowed with like a push mower at this point. So I have like a nice layer of mulch happening. So I'm sort of hoping the seeds can get under that and take root, and I don't have to do anything else. But that has been my entire life for the past few months, and I'm really excited to see what happens.
I love that kind of stuff. I don't have green thumbs at all, but my other half does. So yeah, we've got quite a sort of biodiverse back garden as well. Obviously nowhere near the same kind of scale. It's UK garden, so it's tiny. But yeah, I love that kind of just the all the shapes and all the colours as opposed to just rectangle of grass. It's such a difference.
There's a place for grass, and there's a place for flowers. And if I want to go running around playing soccer or football, I don't want to play it in a bunch of flowers.
No.
But if I want it to, if you're not going to be using this is where this grass versus they want to naturalize. Like there's a lot of people pushing for naturalization of lawns, and I go, well, that is wonderful. If I'm not using my lawn for my kids playing, that sounds like a great thing to do. That's wonderful, but when I'm playing, I want my kids out in the backyard where it's safe and they're not going to get run over by cars. Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, that's my little rant. That's my G rant.
No, entirely fair. I mean, I think you're right. My, kind of in my ideal place, if I was sort of doing a thing, it would all be concrete, just because, as much as I love wildlife and I love the colours and the smells, all of it
less
contains
feeding
pollen.
and no hay fever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair.
Yeah. Don't have to do anything, and my face doesn't explode. So that would be, I mean, I fully realise I need to, employ a gardener and wear a bubble. But
well, I think there's some countries in the Eastern European area where I think you could get your dreams come true.
Yes, quite possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. At least that's what I've seen on the internet. I don't know.
So that must be true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Jamie, what's been grabbing your attention?
I've been playing with aluminium.
Ooh.
Yeah, I took apart a couple of 3D printers
Jessy.
as an excuse.
That's
aluminum.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you so much for translating.
I was tempted to do that myself, but thank you, Grant.
Yeah. That's one I will grant because it both are correct.
Okay.
I know, Andy, but
go on, Jamie. What have you been making with your aluminium? You're taking apart some 3D printers.
Yeah, so I've got a stack of all the 2020 extrusion and 4020 extrusion I've been meaning to go to IKEA to buy a bit of pegboard to fit a space, and because IKEA is a pain in the ass to get to for me, I've decided to dismantle 2 3D printers and use the aluminium to fill the space instead. So that's been my workaround, avoiding IKEA.
So you're turning 3D printer extrusion into pegboard?
Sort of, yeah. That and some 3D printer. I'm going to go down the Gridfinity, but custom Gridfinity mounts. It's got to be done.
I think that's the sort of thing you should probably be writing up an instructable for.
Oh.
People love organization.
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently in the process of just nicking everyone else's, so maybe when it's finished, I'll write something up. If it works, yeah. How about you, Andy? What's been grabbing your attention?
Sounds interesting. My attention this week, planning University Open Day visits for my youngest. My wife and I have been binging season 6 of Alone. So it's been quite interesting. We finished that tonight. So no doubt we'll start on season 7 tomorrow. And yesterday I attended my local town where I attend my men's shed. They have a group has started up, which is kind of looking at sustainability within the town. And as part of that, they started a repair cafe. So I volunteered for that. So yesterday afternoon went along with far too many tools. So it backs me naked a bit today, especially as you can't park at the place they did it at. So I had to sort of drag them about a quarter of a mile from the car park that I have access to at the men's shed to to the place they were using had a whole, I think, had 4 clocks, a barometer, a Victorian tea tray, and a almost like a Powerwheels type sort of thing amongst. I think it was most of what I had, and I managed to fix none of them.
Oh no!
So I got way forward with some of them, but the way the repair cafe works, obviously some things can be fixed. I think overall there were 5 or 6 of us repairing stuff, and I think 2 items got properly fixed. But a lot of things, it's like, to repair this we need this thing. So you now have to go and buy that because we don't supply the bits. Yeah, if it's a bit of glue or a bit of a fuse, then that's fine. Taking some stuff like that. So
I've often thought of doing a repair cafe, and because they do them here through our we have a tool library, and they do these repair cafes, and I've even actually volunteered to do, like Morley did the 3D printed repairs. I was like, I can do that. I can bring my 3D printer. I got my laptop. I could do the same thing, right? And that's never worked out, but before Morley had done that, I'd even thought of volunteering, but I had like this fear of doing it and not helping anyone. Yeah. Right? Because there would be nothing worse than I took apart this Powerwheels and nope, nothing's helped, right? Like even if you find issues, like I found a capacitor blown, I found the battery was flat, but it didn't fix it, and there would be nothing worse than trying to help someone and giving them that moment of, ooh, we found the issue, and then letting them down even further.
Well, that's why you just take a load of bin bags with you, and then you take it apart, go, yeah, it's broken, and then just hand them the bits.
Well, I mean, actually, there was another one. I forgot another one. We had a guy turn up with a couple of wooden garden chairs, reclining garden chairs.
Oh, yeah.
And I was working on something else, and one of the other guys said, have you brought any wood glue? And I said, yeah, I have, actually. So I passed over the wood glue, and then I finished on the one I was looking at, and sort of thought, right, I'll just go and see how they're getting on. So I kind of wandered over to where these 2 chairs were. Wood glue was on a table on the side, hadn't been used, and kind of looked at it, and it was like, to repair the back of this, there were 2 of them. So to repair the back of this one, we'd have to make 2 new slats. So that's possible, but we haven't got a wood workshop here. And actually, to get those slats in, you then have to actually take apart the back. So then we looked at the other one, which had a different fault. The slats were okay, so it was like, unfortunately, still on the back. If it had been a case of seat on one, back on the other, we just got one good one. Looked at the other one, and it was the top rail. It was rotten, basically. It's like, okay, so the glue's not going to help with this. Yeah, not this sort of glue. Yeah, maybe if we had like epoxy resin. That might, or one of the sort of polymer resins. Yeah, that would do it. And then so, look, we actually pull out. There's a pin through each of these tenon joints, and I think it was obviously pinned, which you couldn't see on through the kind of years of wear to the wood. You couldn't see these pins that were obviously in the tenons all the way around. And I was like, right, we're not actually going to be able to get that apart. If we try and get that apart, that is just going to tear and make things worse. And I mean, the gent, he was quite kind of sort of okay about it. He said, so what you're basically saying is these are irreparable. And it was like, pretty much, yeah. The amount of effort that's going to need to be required to actually repair these, it would end up a bit like, the ship Theseus or Trigger's broom for British audience.
I was going down that metaphor myself.
Yeah. And it was, there'd be so much that would have to be replaced. It just wasn't worth it for what was there. And it was like a bit, I mean, I'm a bit disappointed that I personally didn't actually get single one thing fixed, but got further forward with some of them. And there was one, there was a beautiful clock, an old sort of, it was a mantle clock. No, it was a wall clock. I saw several clocks. It was a wall clock that was obviously, it was Swedish in design. It had some really ornate sort of woodwork that had been gilded. And you could actually sort of see, because of the way it had been chipped, you could see the build-up of plaster on top of the wood and then the gilding over the top. And there was a piece on the top and a piece underneath that had broken off. It had fallen. And I was like, I can't. The one thing I'd looked at on my I took a bunch of different bits and bobs of things, like fuses, and I took a variety of different screws and nuts and bolts and whatever. And I'd looked at. I've got a couple of pots with dowels in, and I'd looked at those. And I wonder if any dowels might be useful. No, there's not going to be anything with a dowel turn up, because only the two things they needed a dowel to fix them back in place because the dowel is split. So. Bring it back in 2 months, because I won't be there in a month, because it's only being run monthly at the moment. So bring it back in 2 months. I'll bring some dowels. We can get those pieces back on.
You did bring some type of dowels, just the metal ones with the helical
with the
thing
swirly
on
bit on, and I had some of the other metal ones with a broader flat top on as well.
a blunt flat.
But but not any wooden dowels, unfortunately. So that'll be partially fixable. Whether I can get the clock mechanism. So I've now been going down a rabbit hole last night of, can I get hold of broken wind up clocks to have a go at fixing? Because now I want to learn how to fix clocks. So that I can
they are intense, but so rewarding.
Yeah.
In an effort to help other people fix some stuff, you've created more projects for yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Gathered a new hobby.
Maybe. Might require some other tools as well. Yeah, need to get some hand lifters.
There it is.
Yeah, watches and clocks. It's like a whole new set of tools that you have to get.
I've taken some watch tools. I've got some watch tools. So I've taken watch tools along. I was kind of hoping that somebody would turn up and kind of go, my watch needs a new battery, or I've got a strap and I don't know how to put it on. Had the tools for that. Clocks though, and a barometer. Right, so that's been what's been grabbing my attention. Very right, fun. Jessy, Grant, where can people find you individually and collectively?
Go ahead, Jessy.
So y'all can find me at Jessy Ratfink on Instagram and on Instructables. Those are really the only places that I am online.
And you can find me at the Grant Alexander and all the usual social media places. And collectively with our Australian friend, we host a podcast called Clamp, the Creating, Living, and Making Projects podcast. And you can find that by search in your favorite podcatcher for Clamp.
I like that word, podcatcher. I've not heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people call it. Yeah, it's a nice term. I quite like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard it before, but
I think Vincent's the one who Vincent from Digitally Creative is the one that got me using that word. I figured if he's doing it, then it must be a real word. I don't know.
Well, if anyone uses a new word, then it's a real word.
I was about to say, apparently,
that's how language
anything can be a real word if you use it with enough anger.
Fair.
On that note, we're going to dive out of the main show. We're going to go over to the after show, which if anyone wants to listen into, they'll have to subscribe, I suppose, through patreon.com/makerswaffle and listen to the rest of the conversation. So, that's how to find that. That'll go up tomorrow when the main show goes up onto the podcatchers of your choice. So we shall say goodbye to folks, and we will catch the Patreons in the after show. So, bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Cheers, folks.